Alright. We've hit the button. Light is green, at least for the moment. And we are back. Welcome, everyone, to Sound Goblin Thursdays here on Sound Goblin Gaming, where we're currently playing through Control Ultimate Edition. I am, as always, your host, the Krampus.
I'm Shiv.
And I'm Vincent.
Alright. Hunter Green, unfortunately, will not be with us, at least for now. Might join us later.
Affected by the hits.
Abducted by the hiss. We are trying to find a cure as we speak.
Oh, no, maybe he ate fungus. That could be.
That could be, we had that
That's
whole
probably
discussion
that.
last time.
But
That's
even the
almost
bullets have done
certainly
nothing to me.
that's certainly not because we gave you fake mold as a backup plan. Certainly not.
No, we just snuck him a piece of cheese with the antidote pill in it.
Oh, that pill I spit out?
God damn it.
Like
Well,
a
you
dog,
see-
I'm very good at finding the pill.
Yes. Luckily, that pill was a distraction for the real pill, which was a suppository.
Oh, that explains a lot.
Oh, and so last time we
That's
were.
a goat.
Yep. So last time we had completed a bunch of side quests, going around cleaning up stuff, getting most of the stuff for the Panopticon. Like I said, we cannot get the last one, the Japanese paper lantern, yet. But we also took care of the mirror and fought our doppelganger. And
We also-
as we,
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, as we come out here, this window is now broken, and we can get our second alternate outfit, the testing suit.
Ah.
Synchronization suit, I think it's called.
I was also going to point out that we looked at the jukebox.
We did also. Well, no, that was 2 sessions ago. We looked at the,
Yeah, that's
at the
probably-
end
no.
of.
Oh, that was two.
Session.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
But we did look at the jukebox at some point, and I realized that. Oh God damn it! I hate you guys.
Remember, blocking.
Oh, he had a friend.
Yep.
When have you ever been attacked by one thing?
See, the problem is it's rare for them to do 2 of the screamers. They'll do like the screamer and a big guy with a grenade launcher or something. Anyway, I don't know why I'm going this way. Me too. Let's travel. We need to go down to Central Logistics and then hook our way back up to the Prime Candidate program. Because back in the main plot, we found our brother. Our brother's currently talking about his dreams inside of a box. But he's also a willing host of the Hiss. And so now we need to figure out how to get him free. And it turns out that the Bureau brought the projector down here. It's the wrong way. Is it?
Brought the projector down here,
Yeah.
which means something.
Well, the projector was the thing that caused the calamity in our hometown.
Yeah.
Jesse and Dylan stopped it by turning off the projector, but most of the adults in their town are dead.
Did they also burn the slides, or is that not the year?
I believe they burned the specific slide that was causing the problem. There were other slides in the collection.
I know at least one slide got burned.
Yes. The slide that Jesse and Dylan had been messing around with, or that their friends had been messing around with, was burned.
Okay.
But there was a box of slides that came from the projector and they found it. And so... Oh yeah, we also got a heck a ton of upgrades for the spin. Spin is now very powerful. The spin already has a damage upgrade, and we put the damage upgrade when you kill enemies on it. So we just kill someone with telekinesis, and then our gun has almost 100% extra damage.
Yep. Stuff.
There we go.
Hey, you can't take a gun through security.
I'm the director. I can do anything.
Right.
Candidate program.
Define new prime candidates. The Bureau needs a director. Our future. P6 and P7.
Well, that's a nice brief version of the call, but
Yep.
After North Moore stepped down, I doubled every effort to find new prime candidates. There was no
I
one.
stepped down. You mean got turned into a power plant,
That wasn't good enough. I pushed hard.
or is that a different?
I never wanted the
nope,
Bureau
that's
to
the
end up in that
guy you're
situation
thinking of.
again.
Okay.
Northmore was obsessed with
Is
power.
the
Needs a director.
power plant? Yeah.
Always.
Turned into a power plant.
When my time reaches an end, I want more options on the table. P1 through P5 were all false leads, dead ends, and disappointments. Then P6, Dylan Faden. He fell into our arms. No parents, they're gone, casualties of an AWE. The boy has exceptional talent. The oldest house will be his home. We'll build him from the ground up. He'll be trained and taken care of. Darling can be in charge of this project. I can't. I'll stay away. I will not fail the boy like I failed my own family. My daughter and my wife. We weren't careful enough back then. Something came home with me. I took work home. My Susanna got sick. When I realized my mistake, I wanted to bring her here for Darling to do what he could. Kate flat out refused. Civilian doctors treated our daughter, but they didn't have a clue. She died. Kate left me. Same old story. That was a long time ago. The Bureau is all I have now. And the prime candidates are our future. There are two, P6 and P7. We're spoiled for choice.
So, a couple of thoughts on that one specifically, because that actually reveals a lot about the Bureau, the Bureau, about their process pre and post Director Hatch. So, number one, it's kind of fascinating that up until Director Hatch, they didn't have a plan for who's going to be the director. Apart from the gun is now just laying on the ground. Someone's got to play Russian roulette. Got it. Because like before that, no one really had any kind of concrete plan for who was going to be the next director. There were people that they could like bank on.
Yeah, like, these people would do well with paranormal or paranatural shit, so they are a candidate that can possibly pick up the gun and not die from doing so.
But there was always still that inherent risk of
Like, you still do have to pick up the gun,
yeah.
and they can't. They have no way of ensuring that won't, end poorly for the person who grabs it. So they
Exactly. And even with his, sure shot prime candidate program, there was no way that the director had any guarantee that Jesse or Dylan would succeed.
Yeah.
The other thing of interest, and this is more about how Control is set up in general, The more about how Control is set up in general and the comparisons you can make to the SCP Foundation. So, to broadly explain, the SCP Foundation is broken up into individual sites. Those sites have directors. They in turn report to the O5 Council, who is the shadowy and omnipotent group of leaders who run the entire SCP Foundation. I'm just doing this, or saying this while I'm hunting around for documents and stuff. Now, Control does things different. There's two ways to look at it. Either Control did away with the O5s entirely by just having one single site here. Like, the Bureau doesn't have... The Bureau's got field agents who go out and do stuff. They've got, like...
But the oldest house is their only real headquarters.
Yeah. So, in one sense, Director Hatch can be considered the...
Director Trench.
Right. I'm thinking of a completely different game.
Yeah. Correct. Hatch is a different character, who is unfortunately not.
Yeah. But Director Trench. Director Trench could be considered as the O5 Council because he's vague, mysterious, has some kind of powers, and keep in mind, in the SCP Foundation, the whole point of the O5 Council is to not give them identities. There is no dossier.
Ultimately, the council would actually end up being the board.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it does an interesting thing by making the board paranormal rather than making the board like
a bunch of like shadowy
humans.
figures. Yeah.
I've been distracting myself. But it's very interesting from that viewpoint to see how they took the basic concept of an organization that deals with spooky stuff and then really did their own stuff with it. They decided just to not... Oh. TV.
Threshold Kids.
I can see you're upset, Meg. Why don't you tell Uncle Mr. Bones what's wrong?
I did bad on my clairvoyance test.
You can't ace every test, Meg. You see, everyone has different brains. Some brains can talk to each other. We call this ESP. Some brains can lift objects like a baseball. Talk about a fly ball, eh, Meg? No interruptions! So who cares if you fail your clairvoyance test? Maybe your brain can throw baseballs, or talk to dead people, or make friends blind. Once we know what your brains can do, we'll know what job to give you. And if your brains are just right, you'll get to sit in the big chair.
To drink from the fire hose. Oh, chair.
It's a big chair.
Very.
What if I don't want the big chair?
What if I don't want the big chair? Everyone wants the big chair, Meg! That's why we're all here. Use those brains to listen for once, or the only chair you'll get in is the one with straps.
So we're having fun, you know. Threshold Kids, lovely experiment. Dr. Darling's a very creative person. I would like to put a pin in the fact that those projects, or the Threshold Kids stuff, are specifically being made for Jesse and Dylan. And the main problem is just they don't have Jesse yet.
Ah.
Oh, Bright Falls Summary. Bright Falls, AWE-35. Event Summary. An unconfirmed threshold manifestation at Cauldron Lake, Washington, resulted in the fictional story written by the author Alan Wake, creating an AWE, in which reality was altered to match that of the story, though only locally and for a limited time. Event response. Mr. Kirkland, head of investigations, was alerted on September 13th, 2010, by ex-Bureau agent Frank Breaker, see Redacted, that an AWE event was taking place in Bright Falls, Washington, referred to events investigated in 1970, 1976, and 1978. Breaker had received a call from Barry Wheeler, Alan Wake's literary agent, on behalf of Breaker's daughter, Sarah, who is the current sheriff of Bright Falls. A Bureau field team arrived at the site 2 days later, only to confirm that the event was over. Interviews were conducted, referred to the 1970 redacted Thomas Zane, 1976, 1978 Odin Anderson Tor Anderson. Alan Wake was believed to redacted instigator. Eyewitnesses report highlight an old light switch, possible object of power, that redacted missing. Wake was not found at the scene. Reports claim he dived into the lake, but no body was recovered in the search. So that broadly gives us the context of everything that happened in Alan Wake in terms of Control.
An event happened. By the time they got there, it was already over. Alan Wake disappeared. They knew the light switch was involved in some
I
way.
wish things had gone differently and ordinary for us.
And the light switch may be an artifact of power.
Maybe an artifact of power, but they don't know because it's gone.
Finding the projector will.
Ordinary. There's so much coming together in this one case. A new object of power, something we have not seen before. I mean, coming from me, that's saying something. And the boy, Dylan Faden, prime candidate 6, and the sister as well. Once we catch up with her, but the boy, so much potential. We're talking Northmore level readings here, and I don't want to invoke his name. It's completely different circumstances here. It's remarkable.
Yeah, Northmore didn't kill someone. Well, he probably did, but...
There was an incident. Yes. We lost a valuable member of our team, yes. Excessive force. Dylan has so much. But he's just a kid. I'll take the blame. He needs some slack. I mean, boys will be boys. He's exceptional and under a lot of stress. Robert's got killed. It's an unfortunate accident, that's all. Marshall needs to realize this. We will make this work. We'll make this work.
Dylan Faden transcript. Transcript of conversation, subject, Dylan Faden, for review by Dr. Darling. Confidential. Note, subject was alone during this outburst. You again. I thought I told you to leave me alone. Why are you showing me this? I can't do anything. Can't you see where I am? Why don't you help me get the fuck out of here? You always show me things I can't do anything about. Stop showing me her. I don't care anymore, and I don't care about you. You both left me here to rot. Fuck off, you bitch. I will dig out my own brains if it means getting rid of you. I don't want you here. Get the fucking message. Subject repeats the phrase "fuck off" numerous times before being sedated at 17:53. And before we talk about any of that, last piece. Agent killed during Redacted, involving Redacted, codename P6. Autopsy findings: blunt force injuries of the head and neck, extensive trauma of the abdominal region, lacerations and contusions of the upper and lower torso, fracture of the spinal cord between the L1 and L2 vertebrae, avulsion fracture of the 3rd through 10th ribs, left and right, blunt force injuries of the extremities, abrasions, lacerations, and contusions of the extremities, dislocation of left and right elbow, dislocation of left and right knee. After examination, it was determined that the cause of death was internal bleeding that occurred when the redacted was contorted through his redacted. So, yeah. Everything up until this point, there's at least the benefit of the doubt that you can give. Because the Bureau is so heavy-handed with stuff, maybe Dylan had an accident. Maybe, during training, something got out of hand and he telekinesis a rock into people. No. Dylan went nuts. And just had a complete breakdown and beat a man to death so severely that practically every bone and joint in his body...
The implication there wasn't that he beat a man to death so severely, but he likely forced him through something that broke his limbs and bone.
True, yes, but the point that we take from that is that it's intentional. That Dylan willingly murdered a man, probably because Polaris was talking to him but couldn't do anything for him.
Yeah.
Because we've seen Polaris do a bunch of stuff, but only in regards to, purification and the Hiss. Polaris can't, shoot laser beams. We do all the things we do because we've attached to objects of power. Now, there is an open-ended question of, does Polaris's interaction with you make you better at interacting with objects?
Possibly. I mean, there's also the implication that, based on the information we had there about him yelling about, presumably, Polaris' eye to Ted, that Polaris was trying to get him to reconnect with his sister.
Yes.
Hence the feeling of abandonment from both of them. Because Polaris isn't doing anything to fix this, and all Polaris is really saying is, hey, stop trying to fix with my sister.
Yeah.
Is this what Dylan
Speaking of a
wanted to
sister.
see? It doesn't matter.
Here's the
We need
P7.
to find that projector. All the times I felt paranoid, I was right. The Bureau could have given me the answers, but they just stood by and watched me.
We got the P7 candidate outfit from there, and we also got... Jesse Faden movement tracking. We won't go through everything in here, but just in the span of about a month, she moves to...
Cheyenne to Sydney, from Sydney to Des Moines, Des Moines to Chicago, Chicago to South Bend, South Bend to Cleveland, Cleveland to Bloomsburg.
Yeah, and then arrives in New York City.
Several of those in day to day to day.
Yeah. And so she feels... And so, understandably, she feels paranoid because, as we've seen, the Bureau is tracking her every movement.
Yeah, actively watching her.
And if she had stopped for a second, and presumably if Polaris had not been feeding her instinctual information of where to go and what to do, she would have been caught and turned into P7 for the program.
We used to play there all the time.
Was she...
Me and Dylan. And
Did she run
other
off when the
kids
Bureau
as
showed
well.
up at the Ordinary event and they didn't get her because...
we
Or she
left
hide when it happened?
This
Her
time, I remember was
her story that we've heard so far is that she and her brother
We found
ran
a
away
way
from
in,
Ordinary when the
deeper
Bureau came
into
in
it,
because the
like-
Bureau was taking everybody. She got away. Dylan didn't.
And they got Gillen. Okay.
we went inside and that's where we found the slide projector.
A dump is a place for lost things. Things that have been thrown away. Did you ever feel that way when you were growing up, Jesse?
What? No. Yes, but that has nothing to do with...
Was there a slide projector at your home when you were small?
No.
Those were before your time, I suppose. But your family did look at photos together, maybe. In one form or the other?
Maybe.
When was this? Can you remember? At parties? Barbecues? How did it make you feel? Did your parents ever show pictures that embarrassed you? Was alcohol ever involved at these parties? Did your
Were your
parents
parents
drink?
getting you crunk?
Did that make you uncomfortable?
No, that's just stupid. Come on. That has nothing to do with this. Nothing.
The slide projector, let me ask you this. As a child, did you ever fantasize about worlds inside pictures? Inside a painting? You know, stepping into a painting, into a hidden world, escaping and finding adventure there, away from your parents.
I don't think so. I don't remember. Maybe. I don't know.
So, one, at least the Bureau team who handled the Ordinary thing, really bad at their jobs. You had to pretend to be a psychiatrist for like 10 minutes. It's not that hard. And mostly all they're doing is they're trying to figure out whether or not Jesse created the slide projector. So we talked about this before, way back when we first hit Research Division, because a question comes up there. Where do altered items and artifacts of power come from? And the Bureau still has not answered that question. And I get the feeling that before everything went pear-shaped, it was one of Dr. Darling's focus. Or at the very least, a focus of like a large portion of his research division is finding out where the artifacts come from. This interview was taken immediately after the slide projector thing. It's not her in custody. She's talking to a psychiatrist later, but it's very clear that
it's
the
her
psychiatrist
seeking out a
is
psychiatrist.
Yeah, but it's very clear that the psychiatrist she picked up was a Federal Bureau of Control agent posing as a psychiatrist.
Yeah. And asking very probing questions specifically related to pictures, slides, and basically trying to determine, like, did you somehow make the slide projector or make this, the way the slide projector functions?
Yeah. Now, this also does raise the narrative question of if you are looking for Jesse Faden and want her in custody and pretty much have not immediately after Ordinary, because there's a gap between when the Ordinary event happens and when Dylan and Jesse are put on the radar of the P Project. But assuming this happens in the time frame when they're like, man, the Fadens are probably going to be good candidates for the program.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that Dylan. Well, I'm pretty sure Dylan got grabbed at Ordinary.
Yes, Dylan got grabbed at Ordinary.
Dylan didn't get pulled away, and Dylan's numbers were off the charts and a great thing. I think they were just keeping track of Jesse and not planning on bringing him in, unless they had to.
Well, no, that's the thing.
They were basically betting on Dylan at that point.
Well, that's the thing. Jesse, they make constant reference to the fact of bringing in Jesse once they grab her. There's no 100% to this. They don't ever flat out come out and say this, that I'm remembering.
I mean, there is also the possibility that the psychiatrist he was talking to was actually just a psychiatrist, and they just got the records from it. That is also something the Bureau would be capable of doing.
True, but then why? Oh, okay, it could be a psychiatrist they asked to ask those probing questions.
I mean, they could be probing questions they would ask anyways. Like, you have a traumatic event specifically dealing with pictures, and your parents are gone. Did you ever look at pictures with your parents? Things that could be potentially related to that?
Or chat. Dead dog. I see your creepy teeth delivery and raise you a dead dog. Yeah, like a straight up deceased dog. Had a collar on it and everything. It'd been rotting in that box since they packed it up. Go ahead and imagine how that smelled. So don't go whining to me. I wish I got to watch a parade of human teeth.
Human teeth are on parade again.
tour here. Willow AWE Shipping Manifest. Inventory list of recovered materials. A hollow sphere, stone-like material, vitrified soil, redacted pieces of various sizes and colors, animal carcass, possibly canine, rusted metal bucket, leather wallet, aged shotgun cartridge. All materials go to the investigation sector for further analysis.
I think part of the problem with trying to piece together the full, like, timeline of events, Bureau keeping track of Jesse, why they didn't bring her and that kind of stuff, is that none of these documents have dates on them.
Yeah,
Like, they have dates
unfortunately.
talking about things, but it's not like, oh, this report was made on, like, October 12th, 19, whatever. So you can't get a, like,
Can't get
view
proper
of
timeline.
a proper timeline of how things were progressing on following characters or that kind of thing.
Yeah, some of them do, but not any of the ones from the Prime Candidate program, if I'm remembering correctly. Yeah, all the things about the incident with the guy who got yanked through something is redacted. That one doesn't have a date yet. They put the date for some things, mostly the objects of power analysis papers.
Both prime candidates. Experiments.
But they don't put them on any of like the memos and stuff unless something specifically mentions a date. And even then, the way they do the redactions, a lot of things are...
Like I was saying, like the general documents themselves don't have a date of creation. Like, yeah, I guess stuff was like, oh, we found out about this in like 97. But not like, this memo was made on this day, so we can get an idea of how things were progressing one way or another in the Bureau. Unless they directly reference other things, past or future.
NYC subway.
Yep. We don't actually go down that way, but it's interesting to note that they have a direct connection to the New York City subway.
That's where they found the place anyways.
Yeah, that's the entrance route when they first...
Yeah, like, when they originally found the oldest house, they found it in the subway. Yeah. Subway. Then they realized it's also just in the town, but no one notices it.
We could also have changed outfits.
Something like, we don't really have dates for it. One of the other potential things that could have happened was they were, tracking Jesse, trying to get her. Then Dylan kills a dude. And they go, maybe we shouldn't bring Jesse in if we don't have to.
It might be safer to keep her free range.
Like, it might be safer to just keep tabs on her, because if she is, we don't have an idea if she is capable of doing the same things Dylan did. But if she is, she could just kill Agent to try and capture her, no problem.
Yeah. Then we've got the candidate P7 outfit. We will switch it up and wear the asynchronous
And by candidate P7 outfit, you mean some sweats P7 on it?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what Dylan's wearing, just sweats with P6 on it.
Oh, our fancy asynchronous.
Yeah. We got from the Bureau. temporarily transitioned into a cover shooter. Do not be alarmed.
Ah, now we have our own guy floating around in office spare.
We've technically seen this room before. We saw it from the room up there. We were going through the clocks area.
There's gotta be a way to fix this. Maybe there's a control panel nearby.
Work chat, teeth. Guess who just had to inspect an inbound delivery of like 100 teensy-tiny little boxes? Me, that's who. You know what was inside each one? A single human tooth. Fucking gross.
Yeah, working receiving in the Bureau has to suck.
Rotate. Something's blocking it.
I refuse to believe that our multi-shot pistol could destroy those, and that giant gear would have no problem crushing right through that.
I
But
have no idea what you're talking about. Clearly only the might of the service weapon could have solved that problem. Get some stuff. And that's why we get the shield upgrade. The only shield upgrade you need. Sorry about the generator, Ahti. I like the little picture there they hang to let you know you need that.
Gates of Director, break wall.
Cleaning supplies.
Generic brand pretzels, crackers, and trail mix.
The director doesn't pay for food. Also,
Ironically,
shot
the entire
most of
vending
boxes.
machine was free.
Yeah, we just give those for free for our employees.
You just have to press the buttons. You don't have to put money in. There's one.
Yeah. elevator.
Hold up one second. Go back a little bit. Back in the middle of the room.
Oh, 1 second. This box open. All right. Middle of the room.
Go down the wing a little bit. To your left. Up. Okay. No. I thought when you were jumping off, it looked like one of the windows didn't have a grate on it you might be able to jump into.
No, I was looking for that too. I was like, oh, we're getting it through the windows.
Okay. Not the case. It was just like the mesh matched up to the wall color, so there was one.
Also, these elevators just go straight up to that area anyway.
Fair enough.
Well then.
Not that we wouldn't have gone through a window.
It would be the first time. We can smash through a wall with our powers. We can smash out regular windows with our powers. We put up some chicken wire.
Oh,
no can do. That guy had a name.
That guy had a name. Probably had a family too.
Well, he got a tail. So it definitely doesn't matter anymore.
Oh, look at me. It's Spooky Guy with telekinesis. That was Spooky Guy with telekinesis. Airplane evaluation order. The airplane in question has been brought in from a private airfield located in the town of Redacted, Cincinnati. It is suspected to be connected to the Redacted AWE. See case file Redacted for details. And is being evaluated for altered status. The plane is currently being stored in the transit corridor in the containment sector, brought here through the New York subway tunnel, special access Redacted. For more information on Tunnel Redacted and links to urban legends centered on ghost stations, abandoned tracks, and Redacted, see file 4-12-4521. The plane's black box is currently being evaluated for redacted, and initial readings have been taken by the research team, though no altered status has yet been detected. Refer to file 9-12-8371 for full report. I actually heard about the plane beforehand. The guy was complaining that they had to disassemble and reassemble the entire thing, piece by piece. Here. Picking up stuff. I see you. Apparently my telekinesis did. Ordinary AWE Stage 1.A. The first slide was a room with dirty wallpaper and dolls on a shelf. There were lots of dolls. Presumably Dylan Faden. The house was empty. No one lived there. We played in there a lot. It was our secret playhouse. Jesse Faden. Therapy session 2010. I went to school with Neil. Some kids called him Nosebleed Neil. Note, likely Neil Hosenberg missing. He was mean. He had asthma. Tom. Note, likely Tom Barlow missing. And his gang, Freddy. Note, likely Frederick Bartwell missing. Hugo. Note, no one by this name was found in the public records. Bullied him. We brought Neil to the dump to play. Dylan from 2002. Unconfirmed existence of additional slide, designation, house.
Very minor point, that name might be Ugo.
Huh?
Very minor point, that name might be Ugo.
Ugo, okay. Entirely possible, and I forgot to hit the button.
It's hard to tell without a last name, because...
Yeah.
We just have HUGO to go off of.
Yeah.
You're listening to America Overnight, celebrating 29 years shining a light in the shadows. Thank you for staying with us. Here's our first caller.
Hi. What I'm about to tell you, if they found out, I don't know what would happen.
If who found out, brother?
The men in the suits. They told me it was an industrial accident, but this is something else. Something nobody talks about. Ordinary.
This certainly doesn't sound very ordinary, caller.
No, not ordinary. Ordinary. It's a town. And it wasn't an industrial accident. I mean, that's what they said. But that's bullshit.
Whoa, please watch the language, caller. It may be 2 a.m., but we're still a family show.
I'm sorry. It's just... my brother lived there. They said the town was destroyed, but it wasn't. I went there. The people are gone. But the town's there. It's still there.
So the population of an entire town disappears, yet the town remains. Tell me, was the phrase, "there is no salvation," written anywhere?
I'm not sure.
The same thing happened in Brazil in 23, a village called Rio Verde. More than 600 people just up and left. The government said they were fleeing guerrilla forces, but we know the truth. A mass abduction, as predicted by my regular guest, Dr. Quincy Reagan.
Abduction? You mean aliens? That's bullshit! I know they're lying!
Now I warned you about the language, scholar. I'm afraid we're gonna have to cut you off. And good timing too. It's time for a short break. Hang in there. America Overnight will be right back.
Ordinary summary. An AWE occurred in the town of Ordinary, caused by an object of power, slide projector, ID OOP-15. Whoop. Discovered by local children at the dump outside of town. When a specific set of slides are used in the projector, the projected images open doorways to other dimensions. Multiple slides were used by the children, resulting in the disappearance of the town's adult population. On August 30th, 2002, siblings Dylan Faden, 10 years old, CP6 material, and Jesse Faden, 11 years old, CP7 materials, were playing at the local dump when they found a discarded slide projector. See OOP-15 case file and Darling presentations redacted for details. A team led by Director Trench and Dr. Darling arrived at the site on September 14th. The AWE had ended, but the team found the Faden children, who led them to the slide projector and the slides, which had been burned with the exception of one. Jesse escaped when agents attempted to detain the pair. In total, 17 surviving individuals were found in the town. All of them were brought in for questioning and tests. See interviews redacted and prime candidate program files redacted.
There is a curious correlation, and yet unknowable forces intruding upon our world, in the form of altered world events. These forces gravitate toward archetypal objects, a gun, a television, a supposedly haunted house. So clearly humanity affects this process. Our collective unconscious is a map of sorts. We hold the key, but we don't know how to use it. We create these archetypes through everyday life, popular culture, urban legends, but we are observing and influencing a complicated system in action. We can change the likelihood of something being a receptacle for these forces just by thinking about it. But we haven't found a method to control the outcome. And yet, there's something unique in us, in our dreams, in the conceptual reality with power, with our minds. What's the cause and what's the effect? Are we the starting point or just a necessary evil in this? A byproduct, a reflection, a projection? We'll struggle to find the answers to these hard questions, or die trying.
Yeah, it sure would be weird if all of a sudden there was a altered world event where we could demonstrably prove that humankind can alter or create objects of power and manifest abilities just by, I don't know, some type of creative endeavor. That'd be crazy.
Writing a book, maybe?
Yeah, or like a music.
Oh, yeah.
That'd be wild. Ordinary AWE Stage 1.B. The second slide we called the Meadow, but it was really just an empty lot with a bunch of weeds. It was a shack and a phone line. It smelled like flowers there. It was powerful, intoxicating. I had crazy dreams there. Must have been because of the smell. I didn't like it. Didn't like losing control. In the dreams, everything was melting, and then when we come out, everything had melted around the projector. Neil was really into it. We found out he'd been coming there more and more on his own. Then Tom beat the secret out of Neil and found the projector. He and his goons took it. We thought Neil had got lost inside the meadow when Tom changed the slide, but that's not what happened.
Let's see what they had on Ordinary. It's all here. Our home, our school, the woods, the dump.
That tree I hated.
And it's all made out of balsa wood, just like our town.
Smash. Smash.
Giant Jesse.
I spent all the time making this, just immediately start breaking the place.
That's some really fucking tough balsa wood.
No, this is the Bureau. They get the good stuff. It's probably plywood from the Home Depot. Yeah.
Yeah, get that man in the tree. Part of the house.
Now you work for me. Just held him there long enough that he could get blown up.
Projector in the dump outside town. Did they recreate that too? Is that where they keep it? They say when you visit your childhood home, everything feels small. Like a miniature, not real. They got that right.
Wait, hold on. Go back downstairs real quick. Those built. No, back in the room, but back in the hallway. Okay, no, those are generators. Never mind.
Yeah, these are generators.
I thought for a second those were other buildings they had sitting that were like, oh, those the buildings look like unpainted. They made of cardboard.
The generators, but they're also made of cardboard.
You mentioned a poem last time we talked. By Thomas Zane?
Yes. Beyond the shadow you settle for, there's a miracle illuminated.
I looked the poem up. Only I couldn't find any poet by that name. I did find a European filmmaker who moved here in the 60s, named Thomas Zane.
What? I don't...
No matter. It suits you very well. The poem. How you see things. Maybe you wrote it yourself?
I didn't.
No matter. You've said a few times that you feel like there's a piece of you missing. Can we talk about that?
Okay. Yeah, it's this... I feel an emptiness, a yearning for something that I think I lost.
It's natural for you to feel that way. Your brother and your parents are dead.
No! No. Dylan's not dead. And that's not even it.
You're referring to the imaginary friend from your childhood?
Polaris. She's come back. After a long time, she's calling me. In a dream I saw, she showed me things.
Jesse.
It felt more real than anything. As real as what happened in Ordinary.
The industrial accident in your hometown? That you believe Polaris caused?
No, it wasn't an accident. There was no industrial accident, and Polaris didn't cause it. She saved me and Dylan.
Jesse...
No! It was a cover-up. The government knows about it. There were agents there. Agents from... I don't know exactly, but they took Dylan. I'll find them. I won't stop looking. Polaris wants me to go to New York. There's a building there. I have to leave soon. I have to be there at a very specific time. Something hugely important is going to happen.
Jesse, you know he can't let you go until you're well. And that begins by understanding what's real and what's imagined.
Okay, so a lot from that one conversation too. there's like 3 separate things I want to unpack about that. Number 1, Jesse was institutionalized. Jesse wasn't getting psychiatric care of her own volition. She was in a facility. And most likely she was put in a facility by the machinations of the Bureau, so that they could keep an eye on her, and if they needed to, swap P6 out for P7.
Sense.
Number 2, the thing about Thomas Zane. So, I think that's them setting up for something in Alan Wake 2. Because whatever image you have in your head of Thomas Zane from playing through Alan Wake, you can just chuck that right out, because he is nothing like what you expect him to be based on your interactions in Alan Wake. Which does lend credence towards the theory that the Thomas Zane you deal with in Alan Wake was created by Alan as part of the narrative. There is a real Thomas Zane, and we will meet the real Thomas Zane. But the thing about
Or is it another fake Thomas Zane?
Or is it another fake Thomas Zane? There's multiple layers to this, like a big sandwich. But that really doesn't come into play again until Alan Wake 2. It's just an interesting little tidbit about Thomas Zane not being a poet, but a filmmaker from the 60s. The third thing is we now have a rough timeline of what happened with Polaris. So, Polaris wasn't with Jesse the whole time. I was mistaken about that. Polaris was with Dylan most of the time, trying to keep him safe, trying to help him.
Trying to keep him safe and trying to push him to reunite with his sister.
Yeah.
Then Dylan basically throws Polaris off.
Yeah. And so, in desperation, she goes to the only other person she's interacted with, which is Jesse. Now, we do not get confirmation one way or the other on this, so this is purely just a question thrown out into the void with no definitive answer. Polaris is the name of Jesse's imaginary friend from when she's a kid. We again come to the question of, did Jesse create Polaris? Did something latch onto Jesse and take the form of her imaginary friend? It's interesting, and like a lot of good media, they don't give you all the answers. A lot about Polaris is left vague-ish, just enough to have some mystery.
Polaris was not her imaginary friend prior to the events of Ordinary. But Polaris was something they met going through the slide projector.
Well, no, because it's specifically in that audio call. Or in the,
yes,
the
they're
audio
calling in Polaris her imaginary friend. They're not going to call it a weird entity. They're saying everything she saw was fake.
Fair enough. My interpretation of it when I originally played through the game was that Jesse had an imaginary friend, Polaris. Polaris stuck with Dylan for the most part, and then when she couldn't save Dylan, she jumped back to Jesse and took the form of the imaginary friend Polaris. But I can easily see that not being the case based on re-listening here.
No, but Polaris was a thing they met during the... I think we even have might have already had a thing already that said that.
Might have, yeah. We get a lot of documentation, and I wish it was sorted better. Or I wish you at least had a search function to be able to search for keywords in it.
Like, search for everything that has an ordinary.
Actually, what you're referring to, I don't think is even in our documentation. I think that was part of the talking to what's her name, Pope. when she originally revealed Polaris' existence. I think
Right,
she,
right.
yeah.
But Polaris wasn't an imaginary friend or anything like that prior to Ordinary.
Fair enough.
Polaris was a thing they found in the slide projector, going through the slide projectors.
Yeah. Ordinary.
The
Oh, sorry.
all this, like all the stuff related to the therapy sessions, is going to downplay every single supernatural thing because they're claiming none of the supernatural stuff happened.
Right, the industrial accident.
Yeah.
Ordinary.
And like you mentioned, Polaris. It's like, oh yeah, Polaris. She's an imaginary friend, not a entity you met going through various worlds. They're not going to believe that if they are. They're not going to believe that if they're actual psychiatrists. They're definitely not going to entertain it if they're members of Federal Bureau of Control.
Oh, that's the thing. If they're in the Bureau of Control and they believe that Jesse had some sort of influence over creating the slide projector, it's very their line of thinking, especially if they don't know where objects of power come from. One of them could be, was it possibly one of your, imaginary friends? I mean, that's not the case. It's not the case. I know.
They wouldn't be talking about the industrial accident.
Because they're also trying to gaslight her at the same time.
No, they're like, if it's a control member, they're talking about it as if it was an accident the entire time. They're not going to say, "Oh yeah, the industrial accident," but your very real alternate world friend. Like it's completely lacking consistency and wouldn't make sense.
Yeah. Ordinary, AWE-24. Details are largely based on interviews conducted with Dylan Faden. See interviews redacted and redacted for relevant information, and the obtained therapy sessions of Jesse Faden, as well as circumstantial evidence found at the Ordinary site. Note that accounts provided by all three sources contain conflicting data. Example, DF claims there were 8 slides for the projector, JF mentioned 9 slides. The Bureau found 1 intact slide, designation 36, and the burnt remains of 6 others. Unfortunately, these slides are too badly damaged to be used in the projector. Jesse Faden is believed to be the individual responsible for burning the slides. Notes: Dr. Darling has ordered that the entirety of the Ordinary Town dump be brought to the Bureau for examination and analysis, with the hopes of finding additional slides or other altered materials. Due to the limited space in the investigation sector, this AWE will be investigated in the containment sector. So, one semi-related to what we were talking about. One of the writing crutches that
There's a whole landfill here in the middle of New York, and nobody saw a thing. Pretty
Well, yeah, it wouldn't even be out of place.
In New York. Heyo. Yeah, one of the writing crutches that the SCP relies on, and I don't use crutch as a bad thing, it's just kind of one of the core tenets of the SCP Foundation, is they have access to something called amnestics, where, depending on the level of the severity of the amnestic used, you can wipe out short-range memory, long-term memory, you can laser target specific memories related to things. It's kind of a hand-wavy thing to explain how, with over 8,000 items in the database, many of which have destroyed the planet at some point, they can still maintain the world we live in. And one of the interesting things about Control is that Control doesn't have an analog for the amnestics. So everything they do, they have to cover up by more mundane means. Call things an industrial accident, things like that. But it also means they have to be less cavalier about the questions they ask, because they have no way of bringing in someone for interrogation, asking them all sorts of questions about weird and wacky nonsense, and then just brain wiping them before they put them back into the general population. Dump cessation of work order. By order of Dr. Darling, all work in the Ordinary dump is to stop effective immediately. Resources will be allocated to the Redacted department. Details will be forthcoming. This area will be sealed at the end of the month. Please remove all personal effects before that time. Any photographic slides, the type used in slide projectors found in the area, should be delivered to Dr. Darling immediately. Hey, globe's up.
Ooh, blow.
The item was found in the penthouse suite at Redacted Toronto, belonging to David Wolf, who was being investigated for illegally dealing in altered materials. See case 13-HQ-37. Bureau agents raided his penthouse and found numerous paranatural belongings, including Redacted and this item. Mr. Wolf was arrested. Article from the Toronto Daily. So why would a 36-year-old Bay Street investment trader, filthy rich, married to a model, disappear overnight? That's the question that kept Toronto high society at night this past week. Police say it's being looked into. Some nutjob radio show in the States claimed he disappeared to join the Illuminati. But it's this reporter's opinion that Mr. Wolf, bored of his job, sick of his family, left it all behind to retire in some remote beach paradise. Now he's sipping Mai Tais while the world thinks he's dead. That was the globe that had weird projections on it, and I think caused people to go to sleep. I'd have to go back and check the...
Yeah, I don't recall the globe effect on top, man.
Seizures. Yeah, dizzy, disoriented, and feelings of unfamiliarity with their surroundings.
Also has towns that don't.
Yes. I see you down there. I still see you down there. Oh, how nice.
I'm gonna go up these stairs, and then I'm gonna...
It's fine, it's fine.
I don't think she's taking this seriously.
I'm not.
Oh, I've got one more flight to go. Ah, hell.
Destroy. Hey, it's Junior Operative such and such.
Yep.
Hi, Junior Operative. Oh, God!
It was an hologram.
Hey, Jukebox Tim.
Yep. That guy.
Oh, not done yet.
Defense against a guy in a chair.
There we go.
We should check that lab.
Ugh.
One of the greatest pieces of cinema ever assembled.
Effective immediately. I'm setting up a new department. Dimensional research in the research sector. Transferring the slide projector there. That's where my focus will be now. The ordinary site remains as is. We'll be back to... I don't know when.
Darling took the projector to the research sector. He dedicated a whole area to it, so he knew it was important. Dimensional research. That's where we go next.
And we got a new hotline call. And, most importantly, it's time for what we've all been waiting for after this hotline call. This is, again, something that will follow up on in the Foundation DLC. The whole thing with the board and the dissenter. But now, however, it's time for something completely different, and one of the whole reasons we're here in Control in the first place. First, we just got to get to a site of power so we can port back to Central. You shush down there. Kids. Abilities. Last seize duration, because why not? Constructs. Let's grab the second level of the Shatter. That's about to become real relevant. And we'll head back to Central Executive. What's our time look like? Ah, we're fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hello, Jesse.
New file. Speech analysis. If we understand the hiss to be a force based on vibration and resonance, then perhaps their incantation, which is now the agreed upon term for their vocalizations, is an effort to express the resonance using human vocal cords in speech. Would there be differences if the incantation were recited in a different language? The most common word used is want. Interestingly, every usage of the word is attributed to a you. You want to listen. You want this to be true. You must want these waves to drag you away. Are we the you the hiss are referring to? Does the hiss believe that humanity, possibly all non-hiss life, wants to join it? To be consumed by it? Is that its goal? The second most used words are through and time. Is this possibly the hiss stating how they arrived here, or an indication of its age? There is no clear intention in the words. Dismissing the incantation as nonsense, as some of my colleagues recommended, is beyond idiotic. Refer to redacted full report.
Do you remember Mr. Tomasi, the head of communications? The hiss he was changed into showed up in containment, near the turntable.
I'll take care of it. That thing's not getting away this time.
I've heard reports about his particular use of language and intonation when repeating the hiss babbling. The biological and behavioral distinctions between different hiss-corrupted individuals is truly fascinating. I wonder if I could categorize the data.
And she's already off on her own thing. I've been seeing these Darling presentations all over. Seems like he enjoys the limelight.
So you noticed, huh? When he recruited me out of college, he actually came to visit. He interrupted my physics course by shouting, not quite, Professor, and then marching down to the front of the class where he proceeded to berate the very idea of laws of thermodynamics. Hey, he's been a showboat all his life.
Darling visited you in college?
Yeah, he read a paper I'd published, came to recruit me for the Bureau. I accepted and then spent years waiting for access to the confidential research that Darling promised me. And whenever I ask about my access level, he just mumbles that it's temporarily postponed and then changes the subject to the effect of entropy on luck.
I wonder who else Darling hid his work from. Marshall? Trench? Have you learned anything about Dylan's condition?
Only that he's definitely hiss, but I guess his chanting made that pretty obvious. You know, interestingly, the words of the hiss incantation have an average length of 4 letters. The most common word used 7 times is want. The next most common are through and time. It's very interesting, don't you think?
I don't care about the words. What about my brother?
Right. Sorry, I got a little off track. Well, strangely, his tissue samples all look healthy, unlike the other hiss I've tested.
That's good news. Right? I wanted to talk to you about the crazy things I can do. My abilities. I get the sense that they're not very usual around here. Well, usual and unusual aren't really benchmarks at the Bureau, but for some perspective, Director Northmore once used the floppy disk to send a bowling ball 6 yards through the air, and that was considered a huge deal. So compared to that, you are most certainly an outlier. An outlier. I like the sound of that. I should get going. Don't let me hold you up.
Alright. Hit the save point here real quick. And now,
Good luck out there.
it's time to have a conversation.
The elevator. There was something there, reaching for her, trying to make her act. It was a distress call. Faden sensed a drowning man, a hunger in the dark. Investigation sector.
Investigation sector, huh? We should check this out.
Well, I will once the containment personnel protection thing goes away. So, first off, all of Wake's dialogue comes in through the hotline.
Okay.
Darkness engulfed the elevator. There was something there. A presence. Jesse Faden could hear it. A call. It was faint, reaching for her from a dark place. Faden was sensitive to visitations. She had them all the time. From her guiding star and the previous director. She was the perfect receiver. As if she'd been made for this. Faden paused to feel it. The force at play here. It was changing things around her, subtle. Trying to make her act. Faden didn't like that. Her guide felt it too. Polaris didn't flare up in defense as with the hiss. So it wasn't all bad. Not a hostile transmission. It was powerful, but it was coming from far away. And made weak because of the distance. It was a distress call. Faden sensed a drowning man. A man desperate to escape. She sensed something else too. A hunger in the dark. Not unlike the hostile resonance. Waiting. She knew that desperate acts can have grim consequences. It was this, more than the man's despair, that made her follow the call. The elevator lights winked back on. The darkness receded like a memory. There was a new button on the elevator control panel. Investigation sector. Faden pressed the button. The elevator doors slid shut with practiced bravado.
Yeah. So, we're about to ask a lot of questions about Alan Wake and the Bureau. Now, immediately one of the questions you have to ask is, how far along was Alan Wake 2 in production when this was made?
Hello? Anyone
I
here?
don't know for absolute certain.
Yes.
I'd probably find like some guides or something, or some reports about when Alan Wake 2 first went in. But I have to imagine it was while they were writing Controls, solely because of that line about Thomas Zane not being the rest of the Bureau. Compiled by Tim Spaulding, Special Agent, by order of William Kirkland, Head of Investigations. Per authorization from Mr. Kirkland, Internal Investigation D-084-5 was launched into the ethical practices of Dr. Casper Darling, Head of Research. Despite the accounts of anonymous redacted regarding inhumane treatment of a redacted currently housed in the Bureau, our official findings regarding this were inconclusive. Numerous obstacles arose during this investigation. The majority of redacted sector personnel seemed to be wholly unaware of any such redacted contained there. One redacted confirmed the redacted's code name to be redacted, but all files pertaining to that name were inaccessible, being classified under the highest clearance level. Investigators were similarly blocked from entering the redacted research ring to interview its staff. The matter was further complicated by the lack of clarity on whether non-human paranatural entities warrant humane treatment. While this investigation cannot address any charges against Dr. Darling, we do recommend an investigation into redacted research. Refer to file 9-82-0136 for full report. Mr. Dennis, a request came through recently from an FBI agent asking for all of our files on Bright Falls, specifically on the disappearance of author Alan Wake. Per interagency information exchange agreement, I had some paper pushers gather up a folder of all the pre-approved files. Don't worry, all the inappropriate material is either missing or redacted. I'm writing to let you know that we received this request from a special agent named Alex Casey. Sounds familiar, right? That's because Alex Casey is the name of a fictional detective in those hard-boiled crime books Alan Wake wrote. Pretty interesting that an FBI agent sharing a name with the most famous character Wake wrote is looking into a case dealing with a writer's fiction coming true. I think this is worth looking into, but what's your opinion? Just give the word and I'll start surveillance on this guy. Special Investigator Gleason. In Alan Wake 2, we will actually get to meet Alex Casey. He's actually a central character. Mr. Kirkland, here are the latest agents confirmed missing, presumed dead from the containment breach yesterday. Agent Jonathan Connor, researcher Ezra Cruz, Agent Carolyn Dempsey, Agent Lindsay Malcolm, Agent Charles Murray, and Agent Derek Shaw. Letters of condolence will be delivered to you to sign prior to sending them to their families. You'll be updated as soon as additional confirmations are made. Also, per your request, a network engineer checked how many cases were backed up digitally. Unfortunately, a large number of active investigations were not archived yet. And the only hard copies of reports exist behind the fire break. They're lost, I'm afraid. I know, Polaris, I know. Tractor supplement. The Burrow Tractor, AI82-KE. Note, miscommunication led to a local coroner examining the body of William Burrow. Burrow William, male, Caucasian. Case summary. 33-year-old man found dead on his property per police report. Remains obtained for coroner's office also include blood, urine, bile, stomach contents, and bone fragments. Autopsy findings, blunt force injuries, head. Lacerations, left ear, cheek. Blunt force injuries, extremities, dislocation, right knee. Complete avulsion of the right upper extremity with associated fracture of the proximal right humerus. Extensive trauma, abdominal region. Complete avulsion of multiple organs, including stomach, heart, liver, pancreas, kidneys, and portions of the large and small intestine. All missing from scene. It is my opinion that Mr. Burrow's death is not the result of a mechanical accident as claimed by authorities. The removal of organs is consistent with animal attack. The tractor, for reference, was the living tractor that, attacked people.
Yeah.
Keystone inspection. Mr. Kirkland, we stopped at Keystone on our way to the target AWE like you asked. I'm sending my report directly to you. Try and keep a lid on this Grumman Morales desertion issue. We didn't find any sign of them here. Given the records, it's possible they've switched teams like you suspected, but I don't think that's the case. An event definitely occurred here in Keystone, and I think Grumman and Morales got caught up in it. The entire population has vanished into thin air. Reminds me of the Ordinary case, but that was just the adults, if I'm remembering the file correctly. This is different. I think our guys are casualties, not traitors. If it was an AWE, it seems to be over. We walked through the whole town, and the only strange thing we noticed were markings on various buildings. 2 overlapping circles with a dot in the shared space. Could be unrelated. I'll show you the pictures when I get back. In the meantime, you should send a team out here to cordon this place off and maybe get the comms guys working on a cover story. Sincerely, Agent Keaton. Oh, that's pinging on something upstairs. for some reason letting me see the ping up there. Ethics investigation. That will be fun. Compiled by Patricia Lewis, Special Agent, by order of William Kirkland, Head of Investigations. Per authorization from Mr. Kirkland, Internal Investigation P-142-9 was launched into the legality of the Prime Candidate Program, redacted, by the Federal Bureau of Control. Since all known subjects relevant to the investigation used executive privilege to decline interviews, very little first-hand information was gathered. However, anonymous sources and documentation declassified by Mr. Kirkland both paint an alarmingly clear picture of systematic redacted and redacted. Redacted were brought to the oldest house and placed under redacted examination and testing, with the aim of appointing one as director upon maturity. This program has produced no successful cases and only resulted in traumatic redacted of paranaturally inclined redacted. Not only is this in breach of the Ash Act, but it flies in the face of basic human redacted. The investigation team unequivocally redacted the Prime Candidate Program and recommends that it be redacted immediately. Tractor procedures. Item is not in Bureau custody. None known. A Frank Elk tractor, olive green, dried blood on the grill when last seen. Item is capable of vocalized responses or growls and unmanned locomotion, considered highly aggressive and dangerous. The item first came to the Bureau's attention after the death of William Burrow, the owner of Burrow Farm outside of Trenton, Texas. Local authorities arrived on the scene after an employee found the mutilated body of Mr. Burrow beneath his tractor. Police arrived, but were immediately driven away by the tractor. Panicked calls to federal authorities were intercepted by Bureau communications staff. A team was dispatched. Upon arrival, the agents approached the item. It responded by growling like a bear. 3 agents were injured when they tried to detain the item, which escaped. Aerial searches for the item are ongoing. Speaking to Mrs. Burrow only revealed that she had a domestic altercation with Mr. Burrow earlier the night of the incident. Whether these events are connected is currently unknown. Come on.
Now that gate should open.
We're not done with the huge smorgasbord of data. Trench official warning. Kirkland, I'm growing tired of your blatant attempts to lay your incompetence at my doorstep. I know you want this to be true, but you're head of investigations. This failure is your responsibility. What did you think would happen holding a dangerous specimen in your investigations? The containment sector exists for a reason. They are better trained and better equipped for this type of work. In fact, they have admirably taken on certain AWE monitoring responsibilities that your staff are no longer capable of. This happens more and more now. I don't think your petty internal investigations have gone past my notice. You are a worm. Everything I've done has been for the benefit of the Bureau. Prime Candidate Program only failed because of Darling. You are both failures, plotting against me. You are traitors, but the truth will emerge out of you. You are choosing to become my enemy, Kirkland. You don't want to be. Zachariah Trench, Director of Federal Bureau of Control. Yeah, Trench, especially after the death of his daughter, might have been losing it just a little bit.
Possibly more than a little bit.
Per authorization from Mr. Kirkland, Redacted was launched into the Redacted of Director Zachariah Trench. A recent change in Redacted, witnessed in Director Trench, including aggressive Redacted when redacted with other staff, has been observed. However, this investigation is aimed at interpreting this issue rather than proving it. Notable Redacted between Director Trench and Dr. Darling has been witnessed by numerous Bureau staff. Although both declined to meet for an interview on the matter, witness accounts suggest their arguments center around the Dimensional Research Wing and the Redacted kept inside. However, no evidence exists to confirm Director Trench's Redacted as anything more than interpersonal disagreements. This investigation has concluded that Director Trench's behavior is not indicative of any Redacted and that his fitness to lead is not in question. Refer to file Redacted for the full report. Official findings report regarding Dr. Raya Underhill. Dr. Raya Underhill is a professor at the University of Woodrow in the United Kingdom, where she teaches biology with a focus on botany. Dr. Underhill once worked with the Bureau as a parabotanist stationed in the research sector of the oldest house. She served with no incidents or demerits, and is praised by those who formerly worked with her, including Dr. Darling. Dr. Underhill has no known connections to paracriminal organizations or any record of breaching her NDAs since leaving the Bureau. Her civilian behavior has been ideal, with the exception of an ongoing personal relationship with Dr. Darling that appears to have begun during their time as co-workers in the research sector, and revisited intermittently ever since. Depending on the duration of her work in the oldest house, it may be required to have both parties sign a relationship clearance form. This investigation has found no compelling reason to deny Dr. Darling's request to offer Dr. Underhill an interim position with the aim of finding a solution to the mold threshold issue. Refer to file 7-08-5286 for full report. Staffing issue. Mr. Dennis, so yes, there's an increase in AWA cases, and yes, it would be a good idea to put together a special task force to examine exactly why that is. However, it seems that the tiny little details slip through the cracks. We don't have the damn staff. If you expect us to detect, investigate, and process more AWE cases, you need to give us more people. It's simple math. Between the staff we lost the Hartman thing and the ones who left for other departments after Kirkland quit, we've barely managing to keep up with the workload. Hell, just filing the paperwork for all the altered items we left behind in the sector has been an ordeal. Another thing, and this is going to sound paradoxical, but we have an overcrowding situation. The lobby isn't meant to accommodate a whole sector's worth of staff. We put forward a motion to move investigations to a more suitable location months ago. It better not still be sitting on your desk. People are getting restless, and as Kirkland's interim replacement, it's your job to handle it. Best regards, Agent Gracie. To whom it may concern, it is with great anger and regret that I tender my resignation as head of investigations for the Federal Bureau of Control. I do this in protest of the rampant disregard for my department's redacted. My staff cannot continue to work in these conditions. Previous requests and warnings have fallen on deaf ears, so I must now rely on my actions to speak louder than my words ever could. I blame the situation on our redacted, who has routinely ignored my requests for assistance in reclaiming the parts of the investigations sector lost to the redacted loose inside. I will never forget the screams of the brave agents begging for us to open that fire break. I will carry that shame for the rest of my days. The redacted has failed his agents. I shall never forgive him for that. Sincerely, William Kirkland. So, the investigation sector is not a normal part of gameplay. This part of the building was, as far as I know, added exclusively for the Alan Wake DLC. But even just this first room here gives us a way better look at the real internal workings of the Bureau than most of the game, even the stuff going forward, does. The investigation sector was where they did investigations, where they sent agents out, where they looked into AWEs and altered items, objects of power, in the field. But they were also the people responsible for internal control, for being essentially the HR department. Now, the problem is that in an organization like the Bureau, more so than most organizations usually do, the executives have carte blanche to just ignore HR. You saw that Darling and Darling and Trench both had the authority to just say, I'm not doing this interview, and there was jack and squat that they could do about it. They were continually pushed and underfunded and understaffed, and when they made an enemy of the director and Dr. Darling by looking into the P6 program, they just got absolutely shafted. They were keeping AWEs here, like Trench said, rather than in the containment sector. Or not AWEs, objects of power and altered items. They were keeping them here. And they just lost control. the incident that happened where they had to seal up most of the investigation sector gave Trench the excuse he wanted to just close down investigations and never come back to it. Their stuff got folded under Marshall and under the containment sector, and Kirkland, having no other choice and having no real way to fight what Trench and Darling were doing, just resigned. They were keeping these guys in the lobby for a few months before they got their own sections in other parts of the facility. This is not the only place that this interdepartment fighting gets mentioned. There are notes we'll find in the regular areas of the game that go over this stuff, but they're gone over in a lot more detail here in the investigation sector. Specimen Escape Assessment. Official Findings Report. The purpose of the internal investigation X-039-7 is to examine the containment failure of specimen SI-1 that resulted in the deaths of redacted agents. An inspection report of the containment equipment 3 days earlier showed no faults. Investigators suspect human error to be the cause, yet no department has provided any evidence to support this. Technicians were able to recover the researchers' notes on the specimen from the internal network. On the redacted of redacted, the specimen began displaying a sharp increase in aggressive redacted. Cross-referencing that date with various logs found only 2 events inconsistent with the sector's daily routine. One, the air filters were changed, and 2, an hour prior to the incident, a civilian named Alice, redacted, entered the sector regarding an unrelated investigation. See interview 65-F-124. Given their connection to the same AWE case, it's likely that Miss Redacted's presence is relevant to the specimen's escape and to the redacted. Investigation is ongoing. Refer to file 6-23-0721. Not to bury the lead, but the Alice named there is someone we're familiar with. That is Alice Wink. Alright, let's claim this control point. And finally get beyond the first room of the investigation sector.
Well, you know.
It did throw a lot of files at us. And
like this one?
Yep. And given the...
You ain't done reading.
Given the sheer amount of story work they're about to do for 2 games, there's going to be a lot more files coming.
I mean, this shouldn't surprise you. Alan Wake is a writer.
Yes. The Blessed Organization. This group individual has operated outside of the Bureau's notice for decades, perhaps longer, displaying a level of skill and caution rarely seen in paracriminal groups. A review of past cases has found various mentions of their activity over the year. In 2016, a production company called Blessed Pictures was connected to an altered item case, as well as the death of an agent from exposure to illicit paranatural materials. In 1994, a Los Angeles-based public speaker named Chester Bless was involved in the illegal use of an altered item. In 1988, a business called Blessed Repair and Service was suspected of involvement with an object of power case, perhaps even creating it. None of these businesses or individuals have ever been located. However, their connection to the appearance of altered items and objects of power is too direct to be considered circumstantial. An arrest order has been issued for any persons to be believed to be involved with the Blessed Organization. Refer to file 7-39-0922 for full report.
Do we know each other? This feels familiar. I can't seem to... I've forgotten it. I'm sorry. My name is Alan Wake. Who are you? Who are you? Do I know you?
I'm your friend Tom. Tom Zane.
There's nothing to worry about.
Tom, the poet, the diver, you look different.
That was just a role, a character. The protagonist I played in my old film. I'm a filmmaker, an auteur like yourself. We're working on this together, remember? An artistic collaboration. You need a drink.
Endless darkness. Nothing holds still.
Bottomless darkness.
Very close now. You've been writing. You found a way to escape. It'll work this time.
Writing?
You found a way!
No. I don't... Wait. There's something. It's my double. He's out there. I've seen it.
Yeah. Nothing to worry about. I'm dealing with it. It's fine, my friend. Let me handle him.
You've met him? What the hell?
Now, come on. You misunderstand me.
That was Alan Wake, the writer who went missing in that AWE case I read about. What's he doing here?
So number one.
Thomas Zane was with
Sorry,
him.
Jesse.
The poet. No, wait. He was a filmmaker. I always remember that wrong.
Yeah, so there's your official retcon. It's just Tom Zane was a filmmaker, not a poet. Number one, we've seen this symbol before, or we've seen it referenced in documentation. I'm trying to remember which one.
It was one relatively recently. They talked about finding interlinked circles with Doc.
Yeah. Two, I hope you get used to that schizophrenic style of camera and those like manic cuts, because from this point forward, that's pretty much the signature of Alan Wake storytelling. It's not necessarily a decision I agree with. And if I had remembered that it was going to be that bad in that cutscene, I would have given a flashing light warning before we started. But consider this your flashing light warning going forward. This entire DLC is dealing with Alan Wake. That means we get some real frantic cuts. Also, that earlier conversation we had about how far along were they in writing Alan Wake before, or while they were in the middle of writing Control, that is almost shot-for-shot remade in Alan Wake 2. Just with live-action actors rather than... Shush. Spooky.
Dr. Emil Hartman, devoured by hungry darkness, became the thing that had been Hartman. Broke loose, killed everyone it could, lurking, roaming, waiting. Then something else came, a resonance. The thing that had been Hartman went through another change.
Sounds like something we want to hear about.
Dr. Emil Hartman was desperate. Federal Bureau of Control had stolen his life's work. This was his last chance, his final experiment. What he'd been too scared to do before. Hartman dove into the lake, was taken, devoured by hungry darkness, became the thing that had been Hartman. Only an echo of him remained, fragmented impulses on autoplay, violent, bloodthirsty darkness in the driver's seat. Emerging from the lake, the thing was captured by the FBC, brought in, contained, studied. The thing broke loose, killed everyone it could. The FBC fell back and sealed the sector. The thing was alone in the dark, lurking, roaming, waiting.
I think the problem that Alan Wake takes so long to do to write stuff and has issues because he does hunt and peck for writing entire novels.
A resonance. It shouldn't be a surprise.
Yeah, it doesn't help.
If there's one, why not another? The darkness inside the thing could have been immune, could have resisted, fought, could have been passed by, passed through with no effect. But it didn't, and it wasn't. Maybe it had grown weaker over time, not aged. It was timeless, but weaker with no link to its source. A metamorphosis followed. The thing that had been Hartman went through another change.
Yeah, so that incident that they keep talking about that closed up the bureau, or the investigation sector, that was Dr. Hartman, who after losing his clinic and the ability to, manipulate authors and artists into making things, jumped into the lake and became a Taken. Oh, hey, buddy. Yeah, bye, buddy. Ah, someone's left 2 slices of American cheese out for us. Light our darkest hour.
Creepy, damp, and abandoned. Why did Wake want me to come here?
He's an asshole.
Alan is kind of an asshole. Secret bathroom stash.
I mean, especially when you consider that there's the possible implications that these things only happen because Alan Wake. Some of these things are only happening because Alan Wake writes them to begin with.
Yep.
In his attempts to escape.
That doesn't look like a house shift. Do I even...
Paintings!
Pallet loaders? House cleaning thing here. Yeah, that's what I thought.
Beep beep.
Yeah, well, we're just gonna go ahead. Get rid of anything that's below level 5. Exception of shatter. Yeah, especially around here, don't want to be firing a rocket launcher. We're going to be danger close too often. No, we have enough. Oh, we do. Third level of Shatter. Nice. It's in this DLC where we get the thing that turns Shatter into one of the most powerful guns in the game. Hey guys. Fancy seeing y'all down here.
Yeah. Seems like the Hiss want to get on this action for whatever reason.
Oh, the Hiss aren't big.
I mean, there were people trapped in here. What we're supposed to do? Not possess them?
I hear the sound of people not chanting. One box, 3 kills. Whiteboard. Office chair.
Of course, the Hiss are already in here.
Alright. Foot gossip. Hello. My feet gossip at night, and now I have to wear shoes to bed. Sincerely, me.
Okay.
Seems like a well-adjusted individual.
Hartman arrest. Offender names: Hartman Emil. Victim names: Wake Allen, Anderson Tor, Anderson Odin, Redacted, Lane Rudolph, DeSol Wendy, Emerson Thomas, Redacted. Officer names: Dennis, Special Agent Remy. Charges: Code 4, kidnapping of altered individuals, 1 count. Code 8, sanctions against altered organizations, 1 count. Code 37, obstruction of Bureau investigation, 1 count. Code 74, breaching the Ash Act, 6 counts. Additional notes: Avengers property seized as evidence to be used in conjunction with an ongoing AWE investigation. Avengers' personal effects have been sent to research for analysis. After being cleared by Bureau researchers, all victims have been released. Biannual surveillance orders were assigned to each except the Anderson brothers due to their senility, and Wake, possibly deceased.
I have a quick thing to point out about that record there.
Uh-huh.
The charges they bring forth from him are apparently just charges that the Bureau of Control uses.
Yes.
It's just weird being like, I'm charging you with messing with altered people.
The Ash Act is the only exception there.
Do you happen to know what the Ash Act is off the top of your head?
Yes, but it actually relates to this game. But it is an actual act, or well, it's an act in this game's universe.
Oh, okay. So
So
actually, it's not a real like United States act. Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
That's more or less. All right, broke through the wall and light. I'm sure that in the Alan Wake DLC there will be no need for lights.
I mean, the problem still is that the Ash Act is enforced by the FBC and not a publicly known thing.
Yes.
Yes.
All the charges are not publicly known things, so it's like we're charging you for a bunch of crimes. There's literally no way you'd be capable of knowing.
By the nature of the Bureau of Control, that's kind of how they operate.
Not even like, oh, you didn't know this obscure law that's on the books, but you know, no one's going to research or they go over. This is literally, these aren't like public information. Needing to have charges to abduct people if you're a clandestine, secret, altered world organization nonsense organization. This seems unnecessary.
They have to give their bureaucracy something to do.
Yeah, basically.
The Ash Act, because it has come up multiple times throughout various things, is specifically a act that to prevent people from effectively messing with paranormal stuff.
Just like the ownership or use of paranatural weapons is prohibited. That kind of thing.
Specifically, persecutes individuals and groups who take illegal advantage of the paranormal world.
Got it. Okay. Vague enough to be used against anyone the Bureau feels like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, this is going to be...
I don't know if this really came up much until we get to the Alan Wake scene.
Probably not at all.
Actually, it does, because remember, Emil Hartman's whole goal was to take advantage of the abilities of the writers to alter reality for himself's question, profit.
Oh, and people were doing Ash Act violations. Yeah. But I think, like, in the Alan Wake DLC is when they start talking in-game about the Ash Act. Because, like, specifically talking about the Emil Hartman stuff, where obviously he did Ash Act violation, and William Kirkland accusing the director of violating the Ash Act with the Prime Cancer program.
Right. Wave hi to Hartman, everybody. We only caught the barest glimpse of him, but a new construct. We don't have enough money for it though, because we spent all our money on.
Sir.
Yep.
Makes timed bombs.
Yes, it's not timed bombs, remote bombs.
Not remote, yeah, triggered.
But yes, it's a remote mine launcher.
Now we have a light.
Yeah, they're scattered around everywhere. They're very good about, do you need a light at this particular moment? Then here, have a light.
The third thing. The sound made darker, the darkness made louder. Hartman was stretched, like a worm through time. The third thing was a monster. Now we crashed out of darkness toward Phaeton.
The resonance carves its way through the thing that had been Hartman, vibrating, remolding. The sound changes the darkness, and the darkness changes the sound. They both changed what remained of Hartman. They all turned into something else. A third thing. The sound made darker. The darkness made louder. Hartman was stretched. Stretched as anyone when seen from out of time, like a worm through time. Almost an Ouroboros, a spiral, a maelstrom. The gravity well of a black hole, twisting inward, tightening, taking you deeper and deeper to the bottom, the heart, and through to the other side. The third thing said, when you hear this, you will know you're a new you. He said, we build you till nothing remains. He said, under the conceptual reality, behind this reality, you must want these ways to drag you away. He said, baby, 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 yeah, orange peel. The third thing was a monster. He'd tear apart any ordinary person crossing his path. Now we crashed out of darkness toward Phaeton. There was nothing ordinary about Phaeton.
Well,
Except that she came from a town called Orden. She had to leave on account of the crime.
Get back inside!
Hello?
Eagle Limited, AWE-44. Event summary. A train derailment resulting in 62 casualties and numerous injuries was suspected to have been the work of a paracriminal group known as Redacted. As a result of this event, the agents discovered that one of the cars had become altered with a persistent auditory event. It remains to be determined whether the AWE was spontaneous or the direct result of the sabotage. The Bureau had been tracking said group at the time, and the intel gathered suggested an event of this caliber was imminent in Bloomington. As a result, a response team on the site was able to respond to the train accident site within minutes of its occurrence. They arrived to find emergency procedures underway, but also equipment left behind by the suspected group. A suspicious onlooker managed to elude agents after they attempted to make contact. Further investigation of the accident site revealed a curiously undamaged train car that exhibited an altered state when entered. The individual car was secured and transported to the investigation sector for further studies. Shadow. Form of the Destroyer. Paranatural entity A-10, aka the Shadow, is an aggressive redacted consisting of 3 known types. Type A, localized manifestations of sentient redacted, capable of occupying organic and inorganic material, as well as exerting redacted over its surroundings. Type B, shaded individuals, human bodies redacted by the Shadow. These individuals become notably more aggressive, but do seem to retain redacted of their previous selves. Research is ongoing as to whether this condition is reversible. Type C, shaded objects, similar to Type B, except that inanimate objects are redacted solely to be used as destructive tools. Each type seems to work towards a shared goal, possibly targeting certain individuals, see AWE-35, which may imply a shared link to a redacted intelligence. The threat this entity poses warrants an immediate exploration of offensive-defensive measures. The investigation sector is being outfitted with additional lighting sources, some internally powered, to prepare for the eventuality of a redacted. Refer to file 6-34-1923 for full report. So as you'll recall, anytime they refer to incident AWE-35, that's the Bright Falls incident.
Yep.
My understanding of the darkness is fragmented, incomplete. This abyss, this void, it very much does not wish to be understood. If light symbolizes knowledge, then it stands to reason that darkness would equate to ignorance. By its very nature, it abhors comprehension. Of course, my own nature drives me to comprehend all. We are opposing forces, destined to collide. And given this conflict of natures, we know that the light of truth will burn away the darkness, both figuratively and literally. Any significant light source can be used as protection, even weaponry against this metaphysical gloom. And then there are the artists. I know for a fact that Tom, Wake, the Anderson brothers, and Lane all had some involvement with the darkness. The question is whether their uncanny ability to affect reality through their art beckons the darkness, or did their work perhaps even create it? With Wake now secure in my lodge, I expect I shall grow closer to learning the answers to these questions. Assuming he cooperates, which is proving quite the challenge. Well, perseverance is the foundation of knowledge. Speaking of, I must be off on my rounds.
Also, in investigating more information about Dark, I've reached out to a man calling himself Vaden.
No.
He says he has so much knowledge of darkness he is willing to share.
Okay, there's been a lot of times where celebrities will go on like Fiverr or something, and if you pay them $20, they'll say whatever you want. I would kill for the voice actor for Alan Wake to like do 2 paragraphs describing Xehanort. That would be amazing.
Hartman sought out a man. More gremlin than man. Seriously, how did no one notice this guy was evil? It's a creepy hand thing all the time.
NASA Cooperation Review. Following the NASA/FBC Coordination Agreement of 1972, the Bureau has provided NASA with numerous technological advancements based on our research, including the black rock lining now found in all spacefaring vessels. In return, all data gathered during space missions is made available for Bureau researchers to analyze. Recently, certain individuals have raised the concern that this relationship does not adequately benefit the Bureau, either intellectually or financially. A thorough examination of the cost accrued by both organizations has shown that the expense of NASA's recent launch of the Redacted far outweighs any spending related to the processing and delivery of BlackRock. From its medium Earth orbit, the Redacted will provide the Bureau with an unparalleled resource for remotely monitoring and photographing AWE sites, a resource that will be lost if the partnership ends. It is the opinion of this committee that maintaining a cooperative relationship with our colleagues at NASA is of vital importance. Refer to File 3-81-4812 for full report. Black Market. A black market hub specializing in the trade of occult talismans, relics, and other assorted ceremonial objects, as well as genuine altered and paranatural materials, was raided in Redacted, Czech Republic, by a team of special investigators. Unsuccessful attempts by suspects to escape using altered items resulted in numerous casualties and prevented the Bureau from questioning all participants. The following interrogations reveal that not only is there a vast network of these retailers, but they seem to be gathering information on altered items and other paranatural materials from sources unknown to the Bureau. The Bureau's concern here is threefold. A. There is a growing underground market for paranatural materials, which implies a growing awareness of their existence among a niche group of the general public. B. These criminal individuals do not seem aware of the item's paranatural powers, and their attempts to activate them could prove devastating if done in populated areas. C. The motivations of these collectors are largely unknown. Refer to File 5-12-0221 for full report.
Darkness everywhere. New day, same old bloody city. Like tar but good for nothing. Get rid of it. Here is getting bad. The vents, they are full of mold shit. It's no food for you. Headache, nausea, mold, depression. Lads here have died standing up. Lighten them up.
So yeah, we got a few side quests to do.
Films for us.
Yeah. There's also another corkboard like that in the maintenance sector where we first met Audie in his office.
Uh-huh.
Well, we just haven't gone back there yet to grab the side quests from there. These are all side quests that are solely devoted to the investigation sector. Interrogation complaint. Kirkland, so you put me on desk duty just because I did the thing I was fucking hired to do? My job? What do I call that? Bullshit. Asking us to interrogate these scum without using words is like using words like altered items or AWEs or paracriminal is the stupidest thing I've heard in my life, and I've heard some fucking stupid things. They already know the facts. Hell, they know just as much as us, if not more, and they get to sit there laughing at us when we dance around our words, trying not to leak classified terminology. They already know the fucking terminology. If you think pulling me off the case will stop me, then think again. That piece of shit blew up those tracks. He killed those people, all to make a train turn altered. We have him dead to rights, and you need to let me back in that interrogation cell so I can get him to flip on his buddies. These people are terrorists and deserve to be treated as such. This won't stop unless we stop them. You can go ahead and put me on suspension. See if that slows me down. Agent Hewitt.
Agent Fisher, day 6 inside the motel. Utilized surveillance methods are as follows. Fiber optic cameras slid under the individual room doors. Motion detectors in the lobby area. Tripwire, triggering a flash camera across the main entrance. Even fingerprint powder on the front desk. Results are varying at best. But mostly just inconclusive and unusable. The footage is corrupted. Sometimes even the equipment. I don't know how, exactly. I think this place is making fun of me. That's the only explanation. I can hear them laughing and screaming behind the closed doors. I can hear the call bell go and ding multiple times a day, but when I look, there's no one there. I I know I'm supposed to stay out of sight, but I've seen the doors closing just before I can catch even a glimpse of anyone or anything. They're messing with me, whoever they are. I think... Wait, shh. There's something. I gotta get this. Gotta get the cable out. Come on, you fiber optic fuck, cooperate. Okay, there we go. Alright, that was faint, but I definitely heard movement coming from the hallway. I think I might have finally caught one. Ha! The recording better work this time or I swear to God I'll... What? Hello? Who's there? Oh, shit. I'm with the FBC. Move away from the door. I have a... Where's my...
It's still going. It's still going.
Yep.
I will not leave here until this is done. I want your secrets. Although, I think I get the point of this by now. This one just stays on because the guy disappeared. Alright. Oh, fair enough. Okay. Where is the last? I think we're just gonna head back to safe area here. And we're gonna call it here. But we're finally into the Alan Wake DLC.
Yep.
Finally gonna figure out a lot of stuff about what happened post Alan Wake 1, at least here in the real world. We're gonna figure out what happened to Dr. Hartman, and maybe we'll go on a fantastic 80s adventure while we're at it. Who knows? Anyway, thank you for joining us on our Sound Goblin Thursday gaming stream. Join us on Sunday for the continuation of our playthrough of SD Gundam G-Generation Genesis, as we start with the D campaigns.
Overworld.
Overworld. Almost got it right.
Yep. Overworld.
Yes, SD Gundam G-Generation Overworld, as we continue on through the D campaigns.
Yep.
Join us back here on Monday. We'll be continuing our playthrough of the Lands Between region, as we explore the densely packed map that is the Shadow of the Erdtree. And join us back here on Thursday for the continuing adventures of Jesse Faden, Alan Wake, and the guy who thinks that quarter of a second cuts in rapid sequence are a good filmmaking technique. Until then, I've been your host, the Krampus.
I've been Shiv.
And I'm Vincent.
Alright, have a good one, everyone.